Today on CityCast Denver, the fallout from the Triangle Bar closing continues, with heated debate over issues on all Denverites' minds: public safety, homelessness, and good old-fashioned bad management. So we're hearing from the people who have been left out of the news so far, actual patrons, and our resident gay bar correspondent, plus our trip to Casa Bonita and the wins and fails of the week. Today's Friday, October 13th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city that has inspired something truly unique and beautiful. This week, the cowboy croc.
Huh? Oh, this was very hot on my Instagram.
Did you see this photo?
I did. So it's the hybrid of a cowboy boot and a croc.
A cowboy boot made out of the signature croc foam. Bree, it's dropping October 23rd, $120 a pair.
Well, my opinions have changed on Crocs because I have a 2-year-old. And
really? Okay.
Yeah, you can put it in the dishwasher.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you have a kid, kids are gross. And so I can wash his it's the easiest thing. All that to say, I wouldn't put him in a Croc cowboy boot, though, because that's a whole other, that just seems like a sweaty boot.
Yeah.
Peyton is mouthing.
Our newsletter
it's so
editor.
Cute, though.
I kind of like it, too. I'm like, maybe that would be fun to wear.
It's too sassy for me.
I have never seen you in Western wear, Keith, but this might be.
No, that is a sassy.
Charles will be like, please get out of my home.
That's a sassy white girl boot. I'm not about that.
All right.
So, okay, I get it.
Bree is, of course, here. It's Friday,
Hi.
5280 Magazine. That's where we're at. And you heard his voice. I'll introduce him. He's a great returning guest. He's the creative director for the C Film Center. Might I call him our gay bar and film correspondent?
Hey.
Sure, why not?
Keith Garcia is here. Welcome, Keith.
Hello.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see y'all
Oh,
too.
yeah, we do talk to you about gay bars a lot.
I was thinking about that because, like, the last time was the Colfax
The Crazy
Hall of
Horse.
Fame, which was fun, and then the Crazy Horse.
Yeah, you're right. 2 of those. Look at you.
It just, gay bars are part of being gay. That's perhaps
And
what
that's
we're
what we're going to talk about
today.
today. tell us more,
in
Keith.
certain terms.
Actually, yeah. I mean, that is our big topic. Why don't we just get into it? Google the cowboy croc if you haven't seen it. But for months, we've been talking about Mayor Mike Johnston, how he is really focusing on one issue right now, just now as he's gotten into office, homelessness. And that's because it's on the rise, but it's also breaking everyone's brains. There was this one situation recently that Bree and I discussed on the show on Tuesday around a bar, the Triangle Bar, this gay bar with deep roots. It's not the same business. There was a Triangle Bar in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I want to get into the deep roots thing with Keith.
We barely scratched the surface on Tuesday. We're talking about it again. We got the real story, I think, thanks to our listeners. And we're going to hear more from Keith in a second.
I was like, Keith, Paul and I, 2 straights talking about this. Please come on the show. And also, you said our wonderful listeners shared so much fascinating information.
Yes, it's a whole different thing.
It really is.
Wrong. We were wrong about some things. We were right about some things that we didn't even understand, I think. Anyway, Keith, what's your relationship with Triangle Bar?
As a general customer, my relationship with bars is that, I don't really drink, so I'm not going to bars for that reason. But gay bars are community. That is kind of what, when you come of age, as a queer person, you find your local gay bar that works for you, that is where your friends want to meet and where everyone feels welcome, and where we don't have to, play the straight card or straight acting card. We can just be ourselves and just feel safe and build an entire community. And I really, not being a drinker, I came to gay bars mostly over the last 15 years working on my documentary, which is about drag and shooting a lot of footage in all of Denver's queer bars where performances happen. And I came to learn a lot about management and, working with people who were the hired guests at the time or the employees, some of them, being employees of those establishments, and hearing the ups and downs and the ins and outs of how these gay bars work and all the gossip and tea and everything. And when this Triangle story blew up this last week, it was like, oh, well, I already had like whole carafes of tea waiting to be to hear about. So
it sounds like you're maybe more on Bree's side of things of suspecting the owner, Scott Coors, his explanation for why the bar is closing, which was these homeless encampments are growing, especially after COVID. It's been too much. People don't want to come anymore. You were suspicious of that.
The cause being homeless and then I immediately knew that was like incorrect. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
There's a million other reasons that precede homeless encampments for why the triangle failed.
Well, maybe we could get into some of these listener voicemails and emails, and we can hear a little bit more about what you were thinking, Keith. So this one comes to us from Tyler.
Hey, I'm Tyler. I live in Lakewood. And I had some thoughts about Triangle Bar closing. I moved here a couple of years ago as a queer person, and I really, I had heard the history, and I really tried to like Triangle Bar, but every time I went in there, it kind of just felt like it was a space for, rich, pretty money gays, and us weirdos weren't necessarily so wanted, and, I don't know, I was spending my weekend with a bunch of the weirdo gay activists, and there was a lot of, rolling eyes at the explanation of the unhoused people. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for all you do. I really love listening to y'all.
So I think he said rich, pretty gays. Was that the way he sort of described it? And what did you think about that characterization of this bar's clientele in particular, Keith? Because that struck me.
Well, and here's the thing, and I have to speak kind of carefully on some aspect because I do know people who do work at Triangle.
Sure.
And every bar in town, every queer bar in town. And I find the situation completely unfortunate for Triangle, but I'm always just trying to step aside from what's going to make it sound like my friends who work there are part of the problem, things like that. When I know that as any of us that get into a job where we're like, well, management is this way and I need this job and I can float through in this capacity and do my job well and just have to kind of close my eyes a little bit to
things you can't control or
exactly.
And when everyone makes that choice at the same time, it creates this broader thing.
Exactly. And so I will say, Triangle, I did not choose to not go there over the last few months. I was a frequent visitor when it first reopened and for the last couple of years and, coming out of the pandemic and everything like that. But there were definitely some management changes, some choices of directions for what kinds of shows and entertainment they were having there and who was DJing there and just all sorts of stuff that was pointing to one person's decision coming in and changing that. And it really did. If this person came there within the last 6-7 months, of course this is what they saw, because that was the idea of what it was kind of populating, was definitely pretty rich white gays.
So that's the vibe.
That's what it became.
Couple of months it became the vibe versus maybe because I feel like they did have some drag. Did they do drag trivia there?
They did everything under the sun. Drag trivia. Just general drag shows. They hosted a lot of really great world-class DJs and would have dance parties on the weekends and all sorts of stuff. Their Pride events prior to this year's were top-notch and really great and fun and community boosting. That's
that Coors money we talked about on Tuesday, I bet.
Well,
but that's the owner that we've kind of been leaving on the sidelines until now, but he's a big part of this, Scott Coors. He's the owner of the building. He's the guy who made the decision to close.
Exactly. And then as management comes in, his management style comes in more a few months ago, which is really what I had heard was the problem. We
have to go a little deeper now. We have another email we got from a longtime listener, friend of the show, one of the hosts of the really great 3 Stars podcast. Peyton was on recently. So go listen to that episode of 3 Stars. Anyway, our friend Brad, he tells us, You're right to suspect something deeper in the Triangle Bar closing. A former man, Brad's in the service industry,
Been in a long
long-timer,
time, yeah.
worked at the airport. Anyway, he says, a former manager when I worked at the airport was the GM/managing partner of Triangle, along with his husband, and they were the ones who were ousted a few months ago. As I understand it, Triangle wasn't doing the number Scott Coors wanted, and so he fired Sean and Roger. Lots of drama, but I heard they were partying too much and they weren't running it well enough. However, Sean and Roger were the face of the business, and when they got the boot, the community was on their side, and there was a huge boycott of the place. Scott then made some bad decisions, like trying to create a paid annual VIP membership that no one wanted. Keith, you're nodding. You got this offer and said, no, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, it doesn't work out.
There you go. The going feeling, I assume Brad is saying, like in the service industry, is that Scott is blaming the homeless encampments as a way to get some sort of kickback or to use it as some sort of leverage or to save face from his own mismanagement. That seems quite obvious at this point that there was some mismanagement happening, which I was wrong about on Tuesday. I'll own that.
Well, and Bree, you brought up, he owns the building. He's the building owner.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of chatted earlier about, there was a Firestone location right next door to on the same block of the Triangle forever and was recently bought and fenced up. And that space is not big enough to do anything substantial on. But if you happen to buy the property next door to it on that block, well, that space becomes something more manageable and more interesting. And I can just see there being an offer on the table, and the easy way out of this
it's already low performing, or however that, you know what I mean? They're looking at their investments. This bar's not doing as well.
Now, he hasn't said he's selling.
No,
he just said he's closing the bar.
Not yet. And that's the whole thing, is I think what it comes down to in my eyes, what I view this as is close the bar, get the community to be sad about it, and then what are you going to do with an empty bar? You're going to sell it.
Right.
Interesting.
But I think the offer's been on the table for months, and this is just well, give me some time to get this bar
instead of just
off my
being
back.
like, we talked about this yesterday too, with a place like the a lot of times too, historically, queer and gay bars are in parts of town that are not considered desirable. And as cities change, these things change, property values go up. And I think we talked about the Eagle was like, hey, we got a really nice offer to sell our bar or our building. We want to retire. They ended up not, but they were very honest with the community. And I know that you and I are highly speculative right now about this, Keith. And I do want to make that clear. Paul, what you're saying is that is not out. The bar is not for sale. As far as we know, the building is not. It's not uncommon for that kind of thing.
It wouldn't be a surprise if he did.
No, exactly. And also, Brad's comment about the management is interesting to me because it says something about can be an owner of a bar, and then there's the people that run it. And if the people that run it are in the community goes there because those are their friends.
Yeah, I mean that's what a successful business is.
Yes.
We should go another layer deeper because there's an explanation forming. We have to address the other side. So Scott Coors, who by the way I did contact, I tried to get a hold of him. Someone was like, "Why don't you talk to Scott Coors?" You're right. Thank you for writing in. I tried. I called the building. I suspect it might have been him that picked up, but he didn't say it was him. There was a weird moment. He said email him, so I emailed him and I didn't hear back. Anyway, we got a message from a listener. I want to read this. Longtime listener Ryan here from Central Park. Just some thoughts on the story about Triangle closing. As someone who lived across the street from Coors Field for 2 years, which interesting connection that Coors Field, the Coors family on the other side of this same neighborhood has been one of the forces of development and change pushing up against the very same squalor that defined it before and was anyway, very interesting. Hey, there's a reason we're talking about it. They write, I can understand some challenges of the relationship between local businesses and unhoused folks. I used to frequent the Triangle, and I can say without a doubt the situation around that bar was unsafe. And the reason my friends and I stopped going there. We were often heckled while walking in and out of the venue, including slurs. This is not the same experience I had around other encampments near where I lived by Coors Field, where folks are polite and do not harass passerbys. So I'm not sure if that's the true situation for everyone, but I do know anecdotally that was 100% the reason we stopped going. And I don't know about you all, that sounds real to me. Scott Coors says those old managers weren't making the number he wanted. That's another way of saying people had stopped coming as much.
As someone who used to go frequently, my not going in the last, since the management change has to do with the offerings of entertainment. There was just no shows or anything that I really wanted to go to. And if there was, I had friends that would do, trivia nights or, VJ nights or like whatever, I would go and I would support that. There would also be just like 10 other people there, but I would go to support that. And all these times I would go in the last few months, not once was any encampment or any unhoused person or anything a factor for me to turn around and go, or anything that caught me off guard. I'm downtown.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just like, I'm smiling because this is like not, I'm not undermining Ryan's experience.
No, exactly. That's another thing too. If you feel
for sure.
unsafe, you feel unsafe, and
That
no one should be heckled or slurs
But in
thrown
the
at them.
2 decades I've been going to weird parts of downtown and been around all kinds of people. It doesn't feel like a real reason to close or play. We were talking about the wave was down there. I mean, there were all.
I think it is real though, because some people feel differently. Some people have different
Yeah.
risk perceptions is another way of saying this than you two do. You're talking about your own experiences.
Right. And I'm not
But-
undermining that person's experience. I just also experienced something different downtown.
Yeah. But in the aggregate though, because there are a lot of people like Ryan, that means a business like the Triangle makes less money. And that's what these business owners are talking about. They're not talking about, I don't think they're like, it's not an ad hominem attack. It's not like this person who's experiencing homelessness has decided to close my business by menacing my customers. No one's saying that. They're saying I'm losing business. And I've noticed that it correlates with this broader situation. Now, is he not also looking within himself to see that he is creating an atmosphere that's like not cool to be at, like not a good bar? Sounds like absolutely yes.
This is what I know too from the other successful queer bars in town. Trax has always been an odd point of development too, where unhoused have also populated for a bit and then maybe been swept, whatever. X Bar is right on Colfax.
I know. I was just going to say
Charlie's is right on
Colfax.
Colfax. Charlie's was closer to one of the encampments for a long time too. That was off of 13th. And though I know I've been at X Bar when I've been just some rando drunk person yells a slur or something on Colfax, but that's just, once again, we're in the city, and
Yeah,
this is 2023 dealing with drunk people and whatever.
This is to me why it just doesn't hold up as a business problem, because it is so. You are in a city. This happens everywhere.
There were a lot of people who wrote in to share similar experiences of like, hey, there are other gay bars that have this same exact situation and are doing great.
Right.
So
Right.
it's clearly not that. Anyway, one more listener comment and then we can move on. Lisa D writes, on the subject of Coors and boycotts, when Scott Coors was there, it would have been in the early 90s. And I think she's talking about the old Triangle Bar back when it was like, it was one of those seedy places. That's another thing I learned. Like it was kind of like a off, like it was like a countercultural, like 70s.
I would not say seedy.
Yeah.
Seedy is an odd word for.
Yeah, I don't no longer like that. Go on.
Just like where you can be. We're allowed to be.
Exactly. Like the tone of the prior Triangle, like the old school Triangle, was definitely much more of a gay bar, leather enthusiasts, kink enthusiasts, folks that just wanted a safe place. This does not make it like a sex club, et cetera, or anything like that. It was a bar where these people that wanted to be shirtless or have an underwear night or something like that could come together when that stuff was considered seedy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even though, I can't remember if I don't think Triangle actually ever did have like an underwear night, but like X Bar and Charlie's, like they'll play around with some of these concepts because those are more acceptable within the gay bar culture these days. Is just to do those on certain nights to increase attendance, and they work.
Huh.
But yeah, the prior Triangle was great for many years because it was a gay bar. If you were gay and that was your scene, you went there.
Yeah.
And that was safe, and that was a perfect place for you to go. Downtown had none of those issues, did anything with it, because you were coming mostly at night. And
it kind of feels like a disservice to reopen the bar under the same name, understanding you cannot bring that with it. You can't bring back triangle.
Well, that unlocks a whole
But
other can of worms that
at
we're
any
going to
rate,
talk
yeah, I
about
was
in a
like,
few minutes.
I want it, but I want you to dig more into this comment about the Coors boycotts, because Keith and I were talking about this.
I can't wait to hear what you think. So Lisa D writes, on the subject of Coors and boycotts, when Scott Coors was there at the old Triangle, it would have been the early 90s when AIDS was still a death sentence and government wasn't doing much to address the issue. The Coors family was dumping money into electing Republicans, so at that time, the community saw boycotting Coors as life or death. That's no longer the case. It's been almost 30 years since effective treatments for HIV came around, and most of the guys going to the bars these days don't even remember that fear. On the subject of losing business, Triangle was turning business away. They expressed interest in being an approved bar for the Mile High Bullseye Darts League, but absolutely refused to allow trans people inside. With several trans players in the league, that was a deal breaker. They have been known as an uncomfortable place for women for decades. I've been in the community since the early 80s, and I don't remember when it didn't have that reputation. There's more here, but I want to hear your thoughts on the not wanting trans people in the bar and the Coors boycott.
I want to touch on something that Lisa D writes here, where she says AIDS was still a death sentence. I don't think folks understand. There's a great documentary called How to Survive a Plague. If you want to fully understand how the government turned its back on gay people and watched people die. Part of the activism that came out of that in the ACT UP movement was folks were bringing the people's dead bodies to the steps of the Capitol. Like, people are dying and the CDC won't do anything about it. So when Coors is pouring money into Republican camp, when was the first time Reagan said AIDS? 86?
Yeah,
it was like
long after.
3 or 4 years after it had become a crisis. So that lingers for folks. This corporation put money into it was a death sentence to have AIDS in the early 80s. So I see what Lisa's saying too, is like, if you didn't live through that, I was a little kid, I didn't live through it, but I understand the history. If you didn't live through that, you may not understand why it's so toxic to be like, don't even serve a Coors in my bar. I lived through what they did.
And it may be, she's saying that why Scott Coors doesn't have as much sympathy for that.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Because his family was complicit.
Yeah, I mean, the show on the other day that y'all had, listening to, I never want to downplay anyone's coming out experience, et cetera. But that what you read of Scott Coors coming out was his own moment, but written by someone else, and obviously kind of purveyed to pull the heartstrings.
It's a perfect PR piece
of a thing. And I just always want people to remember, like, Coors exists very trepidatiously within the queer community ever since those first boycotts. And those boycotts were led by like Harvey Milk in San Francisco. Like, they were starting, like, there's a great book called Brewing a Boycott, How a Grassroots Coalition Fought Coors and Remade American Consumer Activism. That's really worth reading because you get the gist of the power of the people and the power of the consumer to make change in the world. And it's something we've lost, a lot of foothold on. But Coors is always delicately living amongst the gay bars here. And it always just is so weird that a Coors family member can't see that. As a Coors family member who himself is queer, and I also don't want to go into the, I don't know what your inner workings are going on, but it seems like you would have done anything, especially as rich as you are, to save that bar, to keep that community space safe. And if the unhoused situation was really the situation, you did your poll of 500 people, and that's the outcome that you saw was the biggest thing. Well, why don't you put some of that money towards talking to your friend, Governor Polis? Why don't you talk more to Johnson about his plans for your neighborhood and how you can work together to do what's best for everybody? Also, this whole, you lump everyone as unhoused into one name, but let's do another survey. How many of those unhoused are members of the LGBTQIA community? Yeah. And I bet you'll find a large number. And so it's a slap in the face to blame members of those two communities for why your business failed when you can't keep it balanced yourself.
That's such a
Well,
great
I
point,
think
Keith.
that's the best place to end the segment. That was thank you for coming on and sharing that. I'm so glad we had you to talk about this, Keith. That was really interesting. And thank you everyone to wrote in. If ever you have any thoughts or feedback or questions or corrections, tips, I have talked to some people who have shared some like really juicy tips this week. Please keep doing that, everybody, because that makes the show better for everyone. Call in. The number is 720-500-5418. The feedback hotline is 720-500-5418. We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be back with something else. Casa Bonita. All right, and we're back. We're going to do a segment here just because I think people want to know, honestly. And Keith, I don't know if you noticed when you walked in, how many people in the room have Casa Bonita t-shirts on?
What? Oh my God.
Oh, Olivia's got hers in her bag.
The tag is still on.
Oh yeah.
We went to Casa Bonita last night. How do you feel about that? It's
I'm
second time.
still waiting for my damn
I know.
invitation
I'm
from
sorry,
those email
Keith.
lists. I haven't put 3 addresses into that email list, and not one of them is hit yet. But are y'all feeling okay? That is an honest question. Like,
Yeah.
food wise,
I woke up thinking about it,
okay,
but I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm
good.
fine.
The food
I'm
was
fine.
the food was fine. It's definitely it's not going to make you sick.
no, and that's
it's not.
and that's a
That's-
plus. And I'm always was one
it's
of those
fresh.
people too who like I still ordered food and ate every time I
know
went there.
you and I were both
previously.
like, we don't
Really?
think the food's that bad.
Yeah.
I thought the food last night. Now I have a whole list of gripes and shout outs and just like things I noticed that
can I,
a
though?
year ago would have been huge scoops. But
Real
yeah,
quick,
Brie?
I just want to acknowledge OG Denver. It's like, Keith, I'm sorry that you haven't got the
Oh,
invite. I don't understand how
please.
it works.
Yeah, I signed up a
We
minute and a
genuine-
half after it went live. And
Right.
the way we got access, this is something else people should know. We didn't get any hookup.
No.
That has never happened.
No.
We've never had a person.
We don't know enough people.
I would love to know someone like this. If you are this person, reach out. But we didn't have that. Our colleague Lizzie got picked. And she wanted to take her parents, and then she had some extra spots and invited
And
us.
she invited us, so that's how we
And
got there.
Huge shout out to them. We had a nice time last night with them.
So you've gripes and
Yeah, you want to hear them?
yeah.
Because you've been before. The charade of an ordering system at the beginning, it doesn't make any sense. It's all anachronistic. It's like Chipotle-esque. It's like they're making the plates, but you're not interacting with them. You don't have a platter.
But I think it's just transparency here, Paul. Remember, Pay and I
Yeah,
were
I
talking
like that
about
part.
this. When you're there previously, they made food and it literally shot out of a hole in the wall.
Which was
and you
weird.
didn't see any
Which
of
was
the
weird.
inner workings of it. So I think that was the chef's point.
It's still weird now in a different way.
It's
because
weird
they're-
that you have to go to a window and
make
give-
your order
yeah,
when you're buying
that
your
part
ticket.
is
And then our
weird.
food was on our table when we showed up. I don't know if you noticed that part.
No, I
but that was
brought
like,
it. I had to carry
oh, you
it.
brought it? Oh, thank you. I didn't notice.
Paul missed me carrying our food.
All right. My childhood was only ruined twice before we sat down now. So I had 3, but I can't knock them on that because you did it. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
You didn't even tip her.
Cliff divers, too good looking.
Whole other story.
Cliff divers,
too
too good
good
looking. They're too good looking. They're too good at diving. It's like, this is not the Casa Bonita, my man.
You're nitpicking things that were not wrong.
No, these things are nice.
Keith, let me just tell you.
I had a great time.
When we go, if I get a pic, if I get an email, I will take you.
Vice versa.
When we go, it is just better. It's the same.
It's
it is
so
the
good.
same. It is just nicer, cleaner, cooler. The lighting is amazing. There's fog machines. It's amazing. So I'm just saying it's fantastic.
Let me see.
Were you intimidated by these divers? Maybe.
Hey,
They
maybe.
were-
Maybe.
I mean, they weren't hot, but they were good looking.
They were very good looking.
They're high schoolers, right?
No,
they're not high
professional
schoolers.
They
adult
used to be.
divers.
Used to be high schoolers.
Yeah.
I think now they've
They've really.
Here's a congrats for me. They're spending money in the right place at this place. It's
Yeah.
not on the food. The food is like humble. It's
fine.
very good. It's humble. It's not splashy. The money is going to people. They had like a full band playing just on the street.
Yeah.
They had all these cliff divers, all these shows. The magic show
Oh my God.
was incredible.
Sorcerer!
Incredible.
Very
Incredible.
gay undertones.
can't wait.
Oh, it's so good.
Magic
shows. But you can't take any pictures or video of the magic show. I get now why. It's too magic.
It's
You can't
so
reveal
good.
it.
It's so good.
There's
Good
people sitting in the caves. too. I'll tell you that, Keith. You know how
The
usually
caves I wanted to ask about. What would you have done with the caves?
I mean,
Who wants to dine back there?
I don't know. I kind of wondered that because when you would go and there was like no one, there wasn't even a server in a cave. You couldn't find a person down there. Now they actually seat people down there again.
Last time I went pandemic, there were people eating in the cave.
Really?
We went on
I
like
don't
a
remember
Friday
the last
afternoon at like
time.
3, and there were people in there.
Huh. It's still kind of cold. It's kind of dank. I don't know if I would love to sit down there.
I don't know what you do with it though. If you're Matt and Trey and you're looking at the caves, like they must know that's not a fun place to eat dinner. Like you want to be by the
it's still weird
cliffs.
and cool and creepy, and they enhance the sound down there. There's like dynamite that blows up, and like it's still
Oh
cool.
my God, it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
The lighting is another highlight. The
yeah.
lighting is so on point.
Changes everything.
A lot of it is the old design, but with the black ceiling tiles with the holes punched through to make stars, and then the
gorgeous.
the colored bulbs, but in different patterns. And it's just like it creates this
incredible.
beautiful lighting. Everything looks good. Everyone looks good.
You didn't even go on Blackbird's Cave with us.
Was it fun?
As a person that didn't go into it until my 30s because I was too scared, it's definitely good.
Cool.
It's better. There's definitely you can hear Matt and Trey's voice. Whoever does most of the voices on South Park does
Really?
voices in it. It's good. It's really good.
Speaking of Matt and Trey, we did learn a new fact people might want to know. You mentioned the VIP room yesterday,
Yes,
that you heard that there
asked.
was a VIP room. I asked one of the teens about the VIP room that
The
may
guy
or may
dressed
not have
as
been
a
installed.
Pirate, yeah.
And he did say that it's near the entrance, and it is a 70s themed smoking lounge where Matt and Trey hang out with VIPs.
It has a little address.
They call it their office, and it looks like a ranch house on the outside. So it's kind of disguised into the theme.
So we'll have to look next time, Keith. I'll take you. I
Okay.
promise. I promise I'll take you. It was so good.
It was incredible.
It was incredible. I
Even
wanna
as
go
a
back.
hater, like I didn't even used to like it that much, but I really liked it last night. It was fun.
As a lover of it and a champion forever, it's just only gotten better. So Keith's like, this sucks, you guys.
We have.
I have to listen to you talk about a
can
place
stop.
I can't
Happy for
go.
you. Happy for you.
We can move on. We have actually a correction before we move on.
Yes.
Someone wrote in. We were talking a lot about the new chef Dana Rodriguez and this interview that we read a transcript of in Denver. We did not actually listen to. Had we listened, we would have known what this person wrote in to correct, which was the pronunciation of her name. It's not Dana Rodriguez. It's Donna Rodriguez. That's how she says it.
And I'm so sorry that we have butchered it so many times.
I feel horrible.
I do too. I had no idea.
Yeah, like she was on the show
I
back
know.
when she was announced, and we just
probably
got
said
this wrong.
Dana
Yeah.
Rodriguez, welcome to CityCast Denver. How
Yeah.
rude.
Yeah, I feel really bad about that.
Thank
I
you
think
for checking
we're
first.
going to do it right next time. And sorry to Donna.
Yeah.
Love your work. Honestly, I thought food was great once again. Anyway, we're going to go to one more quick break, and then we'll be back with Wins and Fails. All right, we're back. Time for the best way to end the week, Rocky Mountain Highs and Lows, aka Wins and Fails. So each of us has a local story that's going on that we think is win, one is fail. We're going to do fails first. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Go for it.
The Denver compost, the Denver waste people that we love so much,
Mhm.
they stopped picking up my compost 8 weeks ago. It might be week 9 if they don't pick it up tonight. I don't know what
Pressure's
happened.
on.
We abandoned our compost cart in the alley because it smells like a dead body, Paul. For the first time in 15 years, I had to stop composting
Oh, man.
because there's nowhere to put it. I have to put it back in the trash. So
Sorry about that.
I made 2 different tickets through 311.
Have you heard from anyone?
No. I'm like, please just pick up my compost.
Is it so it's piling up?
It's just, we had to stop putting, we couldn't even, I can't
you're
even,
like, okay.
you can't open it because when you open it, it literally smells like a body is rotting in there.
It's literally just a bucket of live organic matter.
In our alley right now, just parked
Gross.
there for the last 8 weeks because they stopped picking it up. So I know they rolled out the new compost program in August for the rest of the city, but could you come pick up my compost, please? I don't know what to do with it.
Seriously.
So that's
Well,
my fail.
I guess we'll
I have
hope
so
that they're
much
figuring
love
it out.
for you, Denver waste folks.
Yeah,
Come
I
get
know.
my compost.
Keith, you want to go next?
Sure. My fail is this wild Bigfoot sighting near Durango off the Silverthorne train. Come on, people.
I know. I was like, I feel like anyone could literally have just been like, I saw Bigfoot anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
No
what's
photos
happening.
needed.
And I'm saying this as someone who, like, I believe in aliens and UFOs. I still have no idea how to deal with the government coming forward and saying, "Oh yeah,
Are you
it's
an X-Files girly?
Yeah, I am.
I
An
figured.
X-Files girly. But and maybe for that reason, maybe like, Sasquatch, maybe that episode was not true to me. And so therefore I just lost all belief in Sasquatch. But yeah, like I said, quit wasting our time. Let's focus more on skinwalkers and other like terrifying things that we have to worry about than a
fake. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe.
Just like Sasquatch. A very hairy
cryptid.
Person. Sure.
Harry and the Hendersons didn't make you believe in it?
I saw this video, by the way. I'm totally with you. I think the video is BS. It seems so obviously fabricated to me. Like there were digital artifacts in the video, and it looked like the same pose as that one famous Bigfoot
photo
video or the one photo. It's just like this is
have that photo burned
fake
in my brain.
And wrong. I'm with you. BS.
Yeah, meh.
Maybe AI will produce a better video of it at some point. We'll see.
That's okay.
Paul, did you have a fail?
I'm still deciding between two. Here's what I got. Shame on the local media. That's my fail. Shame on the local media this week. But it's because of all the coverage of Lauren Boebert's divorce.
Oh my God.
Which was such a flimsy excuse to get her name in the title of your thing. Like we are going to do for this episode now.
We are not.
But the fact that so many
I have Boebert opinions, but I don't need
What are your Boebert opinions? You weren't on the Boebert show that I learned how much people want to hear about her and think about her all the time.
I don't want to take up any more time with Boebert.
Why not?
Because
people want to know.
Because.
Although it's funny, I listened to a drag podcast from two RuPaul performers, Trixie and Katya.
Oh yeah.
And they have a podcast, and their latest episode, they were discussing the Beetlejuice incident,
the Boebert thing,
but in a way where they both kind of only slightly knew who Lauren Boebert was. Like they'd kind of heard like that she was this awful political person, but it was like a telephone game of the story of the Beetlejuice night because it made it sound like what they heard was that Lauren Boebert was like kicked out because she was actively jerking off her date, and he was like, her breasts were exposed, like that was the incident.
Very
that
cartoonish,
got,
like R. Crumb version of this.
So they were on the side of just like, well, I don't know, not to kink shame anyone, but like maybe just don't do it in a theater where kids are.
Well, that kind of gets into what my problem was all the coverage or all the it was like these Republicans being like, that's my last straw. I'm not supporting her anymore. I'm like, oh, the hand job was the problem. It wasn't her horrendous opinions on trans folks. It wasn't her. Fire
the love
and
of the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, that was your last straw.
And it's so funny to me because both the breast caressing and the crotch touching were both momentary, according to the videotape that we've seen. It was not. No pants were open. No tops were
it was really the vape cloud.
Yes.
With the pregnant woman behind her.
It was the whole thing. But I just it actually entertains me to no end that other people's perceptions outside of, we saw it on the local news a million times, and the rest of the world may have saw a little bit.
Why are we talking about?
But that the legend is that she just like full on
going to town.
Yeah, in the middle of a Alanis Morissette style, just going out there.
Is that an urban legend that part of the song is about Dave Coulier?
I wouldn't say it's an urban legend. I think it's kind of mostly a fact.
Wow.
Uncle. Dave Coulier, famous star of 90s sitcom
Uncle Joey.
Full House.
Maybe the guy that was getting his D-essed by Alanis Morissette in a movie theater.
All right, let's move on. That was my fail. A brain-breaking fail on Lauren Boebert, who might be in the title. Wins. Time for wins.
I'll go.
Go for it, Keith.
My regular job is as artistic director at the Sea Film Center, and we are in the midst of our big party about to happen, which is the 46th Denver Film Festival.
46?
46. I'm as old as the festival. Wow. That's how I keep time with that. Our 46th Denver Film Festival coming up November 3rd through the 12th, and any movie theater, any film festival, all these organizations, like we've had a time the last few years, making our way through the pandemic, reemerging amid, the pandemic's not over, but the continued
Trying to be in the business.
Trying to be in this
of
business
bringing
that
people
that
together.
was really, and I mean, this is a longer story. Like our business was entirely changed, like forever, like so many aspects of it, by the pandemic. And one of those things that we've at Denver Film had a really great year on is that we've seen audiences coming back and coming back and coming back, and we're able to kind of like go back to our attendance numbers, which is very important for an organization like ours that is funded by SCFD. By the way, props to SCFD for keeping us chugging along as a nonprofit organization. But we announced the schedule and put tickets on sale for the Denver Film Festival this last week and have been met with a bunch of shows selling out and just tickets moving like crazy. And to me, that's a big win, is that people are interested again in films and film festivals and showing up to attend. And it puts some relief on my end that it's not all dire.
People want to
that
see
world.
good film.
Exactly. And also, I mean, there's still the balance. We are, every day looking at this SAG-AFTRA,
the
strike against the studios, because that ultimately will affect anything we see coming out next year, or the possibility that we may not see a lot coming out because no movies are in production right now. Everything's dead.
So. Well, Keith with a promo for the festival, and then I guess some sort of
epic bummer.
But why it's so important that we're all going to go enjoy this one last
cool,
film
though.
festival before movies die forever.
I mean, also it's a really fun festival.
No, it really is. I mean, it's very large. Like I always say, we always have like 175 movies that include some short films. There is something there for everybody. So just pick up a guide, go online to denverfilm.org. You will find one movie that you really want to see. You know what's there for me? This one actually already sold out. But the new Miyazaki movie that you all are showing at the Denver Botanic Gardens.
What?
What a great pair up.
Where?
And it's already sold. It's on standby.
Yep. And I should always know, because people get excited when we're showing a movie at the Botanic Gardens. It's not in the gardens. We're not putting up a screen amidst
It's in
everything.
Their facility.
Yeah, they have not set up a situation like that yet. But their newer building that has a really great
nice new building,
theater inside.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a nearly 300-seat theater inside.
Nice.
We did the Denver Silent Film Festival there last year. And it was really nice. It's a great theater space. And they show a lot of like nature documentaries and things like that.
But this is a fun way also to see movies in some non-traditional spaces. That's what I also like about the film festival.
Exactly. And you're part of the Denver Botanic Gardens. I don't know if they will have their hours where you can go in still at that point. But yeah, and just for those who are disappointed, we will be opening the new Miyazaki at the Sea Film Center afterwards.
Okay, if you can't get in because it's on standby. Good to know.
Good to know.
Like,
thank you, Keith.
That's one where I can be like, we sold it out. So, but there are lots of disappointed people. And just know you don't have to be disappointed come December 8th when we will play it at the Sea Film Center. So.
Hell yeah. Hot tip.
The Boy and the Heron is the name of that movie.
I'll go next and you can wrap us up, Brady.
Okay.
My big win this week is for Walmart heir Rob Walton, because he has announced, according to NFL.com, that he is selling down his ownership stake in the Broncos to his son-in-law, Greg Penner. So this is a big win because that's just like obviously the right choice. You can't run away from this dumpster fire of a team fast enough. They are so bad. I promise it's the last time I'm going to talk about this team because they're not even worth it. But last week they lost to a team that had been like the subject of off-season trash talk, like really off, like out of pocket trash talk. And I'm saying that in the Gen Z way. I saw that's a phrase that's just been in my head.
We're going to have to ask Olivia about that.
They're just terrible. They're so bad. They're playing Taylor Swift's team tonight. I'm sure they lost. People will be hearing this after the game happened. But I think this is going to be the last one I watch.
Most of us will just be watching to see if we can see T Swift in the box.
Heck yeah. It's like the most fun thing ever.
What's his name's mom?
Was the game last night?
Yeah, Thursday night.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, big win to Walmart heir Rob Walton for
because you know what, the Waltons
making
need
the correct choice.
Some of the richest people in the world need wins right now. Okay,
go ahead, Bree. Your turn.
Local hardcore band Fame is calling it quits and doing their final concert. What I respect about this is they quit when they were done. I think a lot of artists and bands just play for way too long. They don't like each other. Music gets worse. And you just like, I just admire it when an artist or a group of artists can go, you know what? This iteration of us is over. And I just really respected that. And I just want to give a shout out to Fame. I'm not hardcore.
Hardcore music?
Yeah.
You have this impression I know nothing about music. This just happens to be a
the way
blind
you
spot.
said it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess
this hardcore music.
Tell me about this hardcore music.
I mean, it's very intense and heavy, and I don't know. I don't know if you
what
would like
would
it.
What's the most famous thing?
Oh gosh, I don't know if there's any famous hardcore bands. I feel like who's at the beginning of that? I don't know, TSOL or something. But I guess all that, regardless of the musical style, I'm just saying, I think especially local bands, sometimes I'm like, why are you all still playing together? This is not entertaining for anyone anymore. So the fact that this band they were not around for a super long time, but they had one of those like rises where like they were touring and they were doing well outside of the state. And so it was a little bit surprising, like, oh, this band's good. Why are they done? But they were just like, we've got other things to do with our lives and we're done. And I just really respect that. So you can go see them this weekend.
Oh.
For their last show. I think it's at Seventh Circle. Let me double check. Hold on.
I've been hearing about that place last few years. Seventh Circle Music Collective,
It rules.
newish DIY space.
Oh, they're at D3.
West side of town.
Actually, my bad. Also,
D3?
D3 Arts on Morrison Road. It's like a all ages alcohol free space. It's an incredible venue that's been doing amazing stuff for not just young folks in the community, but artists in general, and creating this really safe alcohol-free space is just a big part of D3. But you can go see Fame there tonight if you want to see them play their last show, or on Saturday if you want to see them play their last show ever. So
great,
congrats! And
that's a nice win. I like that.
I hope they go on to do other cool stuff. Yeah.
So I guess we should go out on a Fame song. At the end of the show. Right? Do you want to announce one for us?
Pick a song. I mean, I feel like that's going to be kind of jolting for our listeners.
See, my mind entirely went. I know this band Fame, but I also was just singing Irene Cara's Fame in my head.
Irene Cara's Fame. Thanks so much for joining me on the show, Bree and Keith. See you all next week.
Thanks for having me.
Did you watch Fame on Saturdays after cartoons?
Yes.
Of course you did.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were me, Paul Caroli, and Olivia Jewel Love. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, rate us 5 stars, follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver. Become a member and support us and make sure this continues to exist at membership.citycast.fm, and tell Donna Rodriguez about us next time you see her. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week.
Oh, the Denver Broncos.
I think owning the Denver Broncos is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, explain to me why it isn't.
You just don't understand football, Marge.